Hello everyone, PenguinSal here again, coming at you with another Day of Demos review, this time for Day of Demos 6. And I'll tell you guys right off the bat, I think collectively, these games average the highest quality of any of the demos so far. I thought every demo we played today was actually really solid. And honestly, I'd consider playing the full version of pretty much any of these. So I'm excited to get at these and explain to you guys what we played in the Day of Demo 6. So, the first game we played was called Alina of the Arena. This game I had heard of. I didn't know anything about it. I knew that there were people that liked it, but I didn't know anything about it personally. I actually just found it because it was being bundled in with Backpack Hero from the other day that I had thought about buying. So, I decided, hey, let's see what's part of this. Well, then I saw it had a demo and I figured, hey, that's a good route to go. Let's try it out. So, Alina of the Arena is actually interesting. It's an interesting concept. So, you play as Alina, and it says of the arena because you are taking place kind of in like a gladiator pit. So, every fight is like different people and monsters that are throwing in against you to be part of kind of like these cage matches in like a kind of like a gladiator coliseum type cage match. And it is turn-based, but all of your actions, including movements, are cards. So you have to kind of set up your attack strategically. There is different ranged weapons and different types of abilities you can use. I actually thought it was a lot of fun. I think one of the coolest concepts about this game was the better you did in your fights, and like the flashier your combos got, and the more damage you dealt with like big hits, the more the audience got into it, and they would throw you gold and throw you supplies mid-combat, including it could be consumable potions or better weapons you could equip, and you could actually do that mid-combat from the gifts that they were throwing out to you because they were impressed by your performance. I thought that was a pretty fun concept. It really helps you get into it when you do a 3-hit combo that does, 40-something damage, and you're one-shotting these enemies, and the crowd just starts cheering. It makes it pretty fun. I think that helps liven up the concept quite a bit. I actually thought the game itself was pretty fun. The combat is good. There wasn't as many movement cards as I would have liked, at least in the demo where you played as Alina. I think there are other characters. I believe we unlocked one at the end of the game called the Hunter. I'm imagining they have different weapons and abilities. The weapons were actually pretty cool. You could have a weapon on each hand that affected different cards in your deck depending on what hand they used. And they each had these special abilities where you could activate them, I think, once per combat. Like we had one that was like a powerful crossbow, so once per combat we could activate it where it would pierce through enemies and burn everybody on the way through. On our other hand, we had a big sword, which activating its special ability allowed us to do our next attack twice. So we did that against the boss that we fought in the demo, and we're doing some big hits. We were all about big damage. There were some cool cards that allowed you to make the enemies vulnerable, so they would take more damage. There was a lot of burn that we didn't really get into, but that seemed nice. We were playing with this one that was called like Retaliation or something like that, where if we got hit, however much damage we took would be added to our next attack and reflected back at them. I thought that was cool. So this was Alina of the Arena. I'm interested in trying out the full game of this, seeing some of the different weapons you can get and cards you can get to upgrade the deck and what the different characters do. I think it's hard to make deck builders unique now, and I think Alina of the Arena was pretty unique, especially in the ambiance of fighting inside this Coliseum and having the audience go crazy for you. But I would try this one out, and so if you see a full version of this, a review coming at some point, that does mean we did try this and we, wanted to show it off. The second demo we played for Day of Demo 6 was called AK-xolotl. So like axolotl, but with AK like AK-47. AK-47, axolotl. I believe it is AK-xolotl. That's how it's pronounced. I could definitely be wrong. The thing that really brought me to this game was I saw that it won Best Indie at Gamescom 2023 in Germany this year, which I mean, you get a reward like that, like Best Indie. There's got to be something there. So we figured we had to try this. I saw it had what it called an extended demo. We figured we'd try this one out. The first thing you notice about this game is definitely the inspiration from Enter the Gungeon. Mechanically, it plays out pretty much shot for shot exactly the same, which I'm not saying is a bad thing in this case. I think it uses it very well with the different guns and the combat roll and just the way the enemies look and spawn in. It's very reminiscent of Enter the Gungeon. Other than that, the concept is very strange. It's like you play as an axolotl who had all of the food stolen from their like pantry chest, and so you go on a killing spree of anything that could have possibly stolen the food. All the enemies are like other different animals that I'm guessing could have been the ones who stole your food. So the concept, I will admit, is a little over the top. But otherwise, I mean, it is run-based. You go in, you find different currency, which were called Doritos or something like that. They were essentially Doritos were the currency. And you also find different things that you can use to make food later on, which I'll get into in just a moment. You find all sorts of different guns that you can use. You have your primary that you start with that has unlimited ammo, and then you find these different guns and weapons that have limited ammo. They get dropped quite frequently, so honestly you should be using them and using up their ammo and switching to the next one you find. The demo has you go through the first run until you beat the first boss, which it did take us a couple tries. These are genuinely not our best game types. They've never really been my best type of game, but we did beat it. And it had some cool stuff outside of the runs too. Like inside the runs you'd find these eggs and you would hatch them into little baby axolotls. Essentially you were finding your babies that were also stolen at the beginning that they didn't care about. It was a weird story. But you nurture these little guys and they become the new characters for you. But you have to nurture them as babies for them to become teens. And then you have to use the like resources that you find during your runs to like make them meals, and that feeds them into like adults, and then I think they become the other playable characters. If that's the case, there seems like there's like 60 or more like different little axolotls you can play as. I'm imagining, I don't know if they have different abilities and things. They looked like they would have different stats. They all looked different, which is nice too, because it's a nice pixel art, very charming looking game. Like I said, this one Best Indie at Gamescom, so it's got to be something there. I did like this. I don't know if I'll pick this up right when it comes out, which I believe is September 14th, so about 2 weeks from the taping of this review. I don't know if I'll pick it up right away, mostly because we struggled with it, and I imagine that will continue to happen in the full version. But definitely check this out if you haven't. AK-xolotl. There will be a link for it down in the description. This one is getting some massive hype right now, and it seems like it's going to be justified. The third demo we ended up playing today was called Dungeon Drafters. This one I didn't really know anything about. I was a little bit skeptical. I thought that the gameplay might be kind of stale. I thought that the story was very, I say anime-y, which I love anime, so take that however you want, but like definitely very wordy with like a lot of different like people and powers and things to keep track of, which, you know, like I said, take that however you want. But then once you get into the game, you can pick one of 6 characters, each that has a different deck based around which of the saints that they worship. There's 4 saints, so each one has like 2 from like each saints. So like one could be like, oh, Traversal and Raider, or Oracle and Raider, and they would have cards from 2 different types of their saints. It actually played out really cool. So you pick one of 6 characters, and you walk around the map. It is turn-based, and it is like tile-based. So essentially every movement is an action. So you run around the map, and once you get into a fight, you take your turn, and then the enemy takes their turn, and then it's actually cool. Like, you take your movement, which costs you an action point. You have 3 action points per turn, which can be used for movement, regular melee attacks, or you can play cards. And the cards are your special abilities, where you draw an extra one every turn. And the character that we played in the run for the demo was called the Brawler. So he focused on melee physical combat. So he had some cool things like Flame Ring, which would do 1 damage to all enemies that are just 1 space around him in all directions, including diagonal. He had this one ice attack that like hit a big range, and he would make the floor slippery, which was actually throwing off some of the enemies, which was pretty funny. He had this one like lightning attack where he would pick a target and like slam down in the sky and do 3 damage to them and take their like spot. He had one that was like this jetpack thing, which did 2 damage to enemies all around him, and then 2 damage to all the enemies around him wherever he landed, which was pretty fun. So I actually thought that combat was really fun. I loved the art style on the cards. Like, you got to just check it out. There are these beautiful little pixel art cards. I think these look fantastic. Some of my favorite artwork that I've seen in any kind of these deck builders. And then the thing that really hooks me in to make me want to play more, besides the fact that there is 6 characters who seem like they will play out different, is all the things that you pick up during your run that you can use back in the town. There was currency you could use to buy things. But the big thing was you picked up these booster packs off the ground. There was like a normal, like a rare, and like a strange one. And you would actually open the booster packs, and that's how you would unlock new cards for your character. I'm surprised I have not seen more deck builders use booster packs. Sure, they're random, so you have a little bit of less say, but opening booster packs is so fun. So that's such a fun concept for a game like this. Who doesn't like opening and finding out what cards they get, and maybe getting something really cool you weren't expecting? So that's really what made me want to go back and play more, is I just want to see what kinds of things you can open from these booster packs. And I'm really curious if the 6 characters all play out differently, since they each use the different saints. I'm imagining they will, and I'm interested to see this, and I do plan on going back and playing Dungeon Drafters again in the full version at some point. And if you're interested too, there's a link for it down in the description. Feel free to give it a wish list, try the demo, let me know what you guys think about this one, because I thought this was actually pretty interesting. The 4th demo we ended up playing today was called Planetiles. Like planet tiles, but one word, Planetiles. There's actually a lot of these like landscape tile placing puzzle games that have been coming out, and honestly the first one I had really played was Dorfromantik. Everything after that has felt like it was trying to be Dorfromantik without a lot of the charm and without anything super unique. I actually didn't feel that way about Planetiles. I thought this actually brought a lot of unique concepts to the table. Sure, it has the different landscape types like plains and sand and trees, but beyond that, like, you essentially place your island on this little planet and you're building your landscape around it, and you get these missions on the side like, oh, enclose a location of 3 or more trees. So you have to put the trees together and then block them off, and that's a mission. And every time you do a mission, you get more of these little tile clusters that you can use, and a higher score. And every time you get to a score of 1,000, you unlock like a new positive perk and a negative perk, where it could be something like, oh, now you can reset the tile in your hand more frequently, but it spawns a random volcano that destroys some of the tiles you already have built. I actually thought this played out pretty fun. It has a cool mechanic where if you make a 3x3 square of the same landscape, it builds different types of buildings there. Like if you did that on sand, it would give you the option to, or a building that gives you the option to reset what your missions are. If you do 3x3 plains, it would give you a building that allows you to destroy the tile you're about to use and get a new random one instead if you don't like what you were going to have. I actually thought this played out pretty fun. There's definite strategy to it. I would say the thing that I thought was strange is they tell you that if you run out of potential moves, you can plant your flag, and essentially that island or the planet is crafted and you're done. When you plant your flag, though, the game just ends. It doesn't give you any sort of fanfare or anything that's like, hey, this is how many tiles you've played, how many missions you've completed, how many turns it's lasted, how many, you know, what your high score is. Like, it doesn't post your score or anything. It just, you're just like, okay, you did it, and like, it's just done. I think it'd be really cool. I know this is a demo, so I'm hoping when it comes out, like, they'll give you like a little summary screen. I want to know what my final score is. You know, I want to know if it was my high score, if this is the most tiles I've played, or the most connected tiles we've had. Like, oh, this is the biggest forest you've had. It was 45 connected tiles. Like, I think just little things like that would actually make the game feel more replayable, because you could have high scores and things that you were aiming to beat. But otherwise, I thought this actually played out really fun. I don't believe the full version is out yet. I could be mistaken. But I'm going to be keeping my eye on Planetiles. It seems like something that I would like to randomly play in my off time, which I love having games like that. And if you do too, feel free to check it out. There's a link for it down in the description of this video. Let me know what you think of Planetiles. Now, before we get into the last demo we played, I do want a little disclaimer in here that said we were going to play a 5th game called Wild Woods that I've been keeping an eye on for a while. That seems like it'd be really fun, especially the co-op seems really fun. We couldn't actually play the demo, though, because it seemed like you had to use a controller. We were operating the GUI with mouse and keyboard, but it wouldn't let us start without pressing A to pick like a character slot. A, like on an Xbox controller. We couldn't figure out how to get this one to work, so we did not end up playing that. I'm thinking about getting a controller at some point to plug in so that we can give it a shot at some point, but I did want a disclaimer in here that we were going to play Wild Woods. We couldn't get around to it. Maybe we will in the future. Okay, that being said, the 5th demo we actually did end up playing was called Crop Rotation. And I have to tell you, I thought this game was fantastic. I absolutely adored this one. I think a big reason why is it reminded me a lot of Endgame of Devil in the way that it played out. In that, I wouldn't call it an auto-battler because there's no combat exactly. But essentially, you craft these, you get these cards, you draft cards at the beginning for different types of crops that you want to grow. And then you put them in a line, and every day they get auto-planted in order from how you have them set up in your line. Like, the first thing in your line goes first, and then the second thing, and they go that way. But they get placed on your plot randomly. So you can't control where they go down. What you control is what types of things you choose to have planted, and the synergies that they have on them. So it could be a plant that says, hey, this gets value if it grows next to another vegetable. So while you can't directly put them next to each other, you could stack up a lot of vegetables so that it's more likely they end up next to a vegetable. This actually was so fun for me. I thought there was a ton of strategy that went into this. Like I said, similar to Endgame of Devil, where once you kind of figure it out, there's a lot of things to consider. The whole time, at the end of every day, you harvest everything that you plant, and you sell it for gold. And the gold comes in a couple of different ways. You can use gold to get more slots on your farm, so you can plant more different things. You can also unlock more slots, so you have more available items to choose from to plant. You can also unlock slots for passive effects, which these are huge. Our favorite was definitely the rat, which was automatically giving value every time a common thing matured at the end of the day, which was pretty much everything we had. But you need to make sure you have enough gold, because at the end of every week, you have to pay back the bank for lending you this automated planting machine. So you have to pay it back at the end of every week, and every week it goes up more money after it pays. So like 20 gold initially, then 80, then 150, then 450. But the amount of money, if you do this right, the amount of money that you can make off of these crops is really fun. And you get these contracts where every time you complete the contract, you can pick like one of these buffs, which was like I said, there was the rat that was buffing up our common vegetables. There was horse, which gave you rerolls if you wanted to try to get specific things out of card drafts, which ended up becoming really important because if you took two of the same thing, whether it was a tool or something you were planting, you could fuse them together essentially to upgrade it. So if you had an onion and an onion, both level 1, you put them together to get one level 2 onion. And these inherently just have higher values. I thought there was so much strategy that went into this. I actually was honestly upset when the demo ended because it was after you pay like the 4th loan. So you're only like a month through this game and it's supposed to last a year. And we had our build working really well. I wanted to play more of this. Like I said, I don't think it's particularly a great game for stream. There's a lot to explain and not a lot of excitement necessarily happening, so I don't think it's particularly fun for people to watch. But it's absolutely, like Endgame of Devil was for me, a game that I see myself just going back to just get a better score and get higher levels and play in my spare time. So if you see a full review for Crop Rotation coming out at some point from me, you know I ended up getting the full version and have played it probably a bit since. So definitely feel free to check out Crop Rotation and any of the rest of these demos. There are links for them all in the description, including we'll have a link for Wildwoods, even though we didn't really get to it. Wishlist these. Try these demos. Let me know what you guys think. I said this has been the highest quality day of demos that we've had thus far, and we played a lot of demos, and a lot of really good ones. Every single one of these I could see playing the full version for, and I think that's the first day of demos where we've been able to say that. Not that I think we've played a lot of things that aren't good, but there are a lot of games I feel like you see everything you want to see from the demo, or you just don't really click with the demo. All of these made me want more. Probably none of them more than Crop Rotation, honestly. Let me know what you guys thought of these. Leave a comment down below. Tell me what your favorite of these games are. Let me know if you're excited for AK-xolotl to come out. Like I said, Indie Game of the Year at Gamescom. It hasn't even come out yet, so definitely, if you've checked out Alina Of The Arena or Dungeon Drafters, let me know what you guys think of those, because I think they had some really fun mechanics too. If you liked the video, feel free to give it a like. We'll continue putting out these reviews. We'll continue doing days of demos and reviewing all these demos, so, you know, there's a lot of demos out there. It's tough to get around to everything, so I'm here to do it for you. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, and you like what you see and you want to keep up with this and see more and more, feel free to subscribe. It really would help us grow the channel and continue to be able to make content like this as we be able to get more games and, you know, get more eyes on them, which would be a lot of fun. Thanks for watching this one, guys. It was a lot of fun to put together. These were great games, and I'm excited for the next day of demos. I hope you guys are too.